Hi, beauties. I'm really grateful that you're here with us this evening. Um, Whew, what a day. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to say hello to everybody at Spirituality Gone Wild, and I'm really grateful that you're here. You can join me on my channels, which are on YouTube, and then you can find me also on Facebook, and that's Lighthouse Effects. I'm also on Twitter. Don't know how many people are using that these days, but that's okay. So my name is Radiance Tyler. I was the musician formerly known as as Mimi Burns. I had a large Celtic and world rock band. We used to tour, and when I was touring and in the music industry, I started to recognize how many people in the music industry did not have the tools or the resources or the practices or the community to really nourish themselves. So often, we're in conflict, and there's shame, and there's humiliation, and there's like all this in relationships when we're trying to get our precious needs met. And there was nobody that I knew of in the communities of music specifically that were helping musicians to be able to start processing what was going on with them, which leads to better communication skills. So that was the first part. The second part was then bringing that to their communities. So a while ago, my husband and I purchased some property in Indiana to build our dream, which is to build a super high-end recording studio in order to bring in producers from around the world who are interested in working with artists, so that the artists can learn these tools themselves and these techniques, and then bring that on a global level to help resource communities globally. Because musicians, producers, those of us in arts and entertainment are really the way that, people may not necessarily have the money to be able to go and get these resources directly, but we can help to come together as a community. And from that, we can steward our communities. So today's really special guest is Rolo, and I'm so grateful to have him. He's sitting backstage, and he's joining us from Hawaii today, the Kingdom of Hawaii. So I'm going to bring him in. If you have any comments or questions for him, please let me know, and I will drop that in. And he's just run to go grab something else. Okay, and thanks to Debbie Garcia, by the way, for hosting and pulling all of this together with Karen Palmer for Spirituality Gone Wild. They have shows on at least twice a day, 7 days a week. Really phenomenal channel. Grateful to be with them. Okay, bringing in Rolo. Hello, Glorious.
Aloha. Thank you so much for having me, Radiance.
Yes, yes. So tell me, I know that like right before we came on, you're like, ah! So tell me, what is alive for you right now?
Well, yeah, so many. I mean, fortunately, everything here around me, beautiful Maui. That's right. Yeah, here in Hawaii, and super grateful to be here in the heart. And yeah, alive. The water I'm drinking, living water. That's supporting me through all this. And there's also, though, I think, what you're referring to and what I mentioned briefly is, yeah, just a lot of spontaneous shifts through kind of, relationship dynamics and, very like in the, navigating that with emotional intelligence and also having outlets like music to express it into. And so, yeah, just a lot has happened today that too much to put into words. Might be able to compress it into music at some point, but yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions or anything about my experience with doing that, with all of the things that have happened in my life, translating it, tuning into that, and processing it through music, and through these modalities that have been extremely supportive to hemispherical integration and bringing my heart more and more present into a state of being constantly. And so yeah.
One piece that I'm really like wondering, for me personally, when I'm taking things in, when I'm adjusting them emotionally, when something is coming at me, First, the first area that it tends to process for me, when I was a kid, it was in my stomach. I would always hold like my stomach area. But I noticed often right now, the first place that I'm noticing it is in the hamster wheel mind, like trying to process here. So like dropping from the hamster wheel down into like the heart wheel and the solar plexus wheel. So I just wanted to offer up that space because I recognized you were taking a really good breath when you first came on. You're like, whew, you know. So I wanted to also offer up the space because I think this is a great opportunity for people to recognize that although we may not have the vocabulary, there are ways to process the information. So you're really phenomenal at just picking up a guitar and processing. So did you want to, I would welcome that right now if you would want to show and talk a little bit through your guitar.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah. Yeah. So I found my pick. It's a different pick. It's actually a metal pick, like aluminum, but I found a pick. But I'm actually going to start with finger picking because that's a way for me, I think, speaking of the hemispherical thing, that, they say using your right hand engages this hemisphere and, left hand this and what have you, and switching which hand you brush your teeth with. And so I actually like to start with finger picking, mostly to kind of tune in to really feeling the guitar, especially if I'm playing like a guitar I haven't really played much. This, fortunately, I have. I love this guitar very much. But anyways, yeah. So thank you for creating the opportunities for me to share these things. So probably, for sure, it'll be instrumental. Maybe sing some things if things come to me from the bottom of my heart and the top of my head. And just out of consideration too, how long kind of a flow are you thinking?
Maybe like 5 minutes. I'm going to post where people can find you. So I'm just going to post that. So about 5 minutes would be, thank you for your consideration.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, hallelujah. emotional processing for days. 72 hours of body cycle is necessary for me to regenerate. Matters of the heart, and how it seems like such an art to navigate the truth we reciprocate. The heart's chords, they are struck forevermore. Sometimes it even gets sore, but I don't remembering unconditional loving is our natural state of being. This truth reverberating through every fiber and level of our being is the great remembering. I let it flow, and I know that I don't know. All I do is show the music and love that comes from my soul. And I roll, and I roll, and I
Woo!
Thank you. All right. Well, see this is how. Do you know what moksha means? Like liberation, like from time, if you will.
Okay.
This, I feel like, and it's ironic because music is all time,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
rhythm and rhyme, and I feel like that's how I find my peace with time. and liberation from it, you know, like the timeless sense, especially when I just, you know, allow myself to kind of be present and flow like that lyrically, you know, just, you know, that improvisation, if you will. It really challenges me to be present and be more and more vulnerably honest, you know, and like radically honest just about all of the raw, you know, and also simultaneously, even more so, actually being able to weave into it and really tune into it. And because it's so present, sometimes things will just naturally come out before any thought is involved. And mostly that's really always happening. And so then I'm like discovering deeper levels of my own truth, you know, and while expressing it. And, you know, it's beautiful. Thank you for, thank you for your applause and enjoyment. I saw you pop in there at the last minute, and I was just kind of wrapping up. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful thing, I think, what you have going here of connecting the emotional intelligence with music. So, yeah, an absolute honor and pleasure to be here.
I was listening in and I was thinking about the, you know, I think about like there's the waveform that is kind of amongst many societies right now. I'm not going to speak for all societies, and I can really only speak for my space. And then there's this, the presence that it takes in order to kind of get to the wave where a person is able to be present in a place of consciousness of what they're doing in order to purposefully create with that energy. So often it comes up and people like they just kind of, it's a mess, right? It just kind of shows up and it's like, I don't know what just happened, which is wonderful for spontaneity in one direction. But I'm just going to share this word today because it's been part of my homework this week. And the word is neuroception. And in it, it's this idea that our senses, according to where, like if there's something big that comes up, like a major wound or something that we're really, really joyful about, our senses will align perfectly and bring in all of our narratives to back up exactly what's going on with us chemically. So if somebody is wounded or somebody is in this place of like great fear, to keep themselves protected, they'll reach out to like news sources, media, all of the things to back up this idea of constriction, of keeping themselves protected. Like, see, I shouldn't show up here because because my nervous system is helping me to stay protected. And that the shift then can happen when you can pick up a musical instrument or go out and even draw in the dirt, you know, like anything to get us outside of this, to start creating more reality, more narratives. Like this too is possible. It is also safe for me to show up right now and just start inching our way towards piecing that narrative together instead of raw to keep ourselves constricted. So that song really landed with me, of just the way that you were really present with it and gifted to it.
Thank you so much. Wow, such beautiful words. You know, and it's really funny and synchronous that you mentioned drawing in the dirt, because I don't think I shared this with you before, but I actually used to have my sister's, actually I know I did too, but my sister's softball games, when I was younger, I used to go and I would just draw in the dirt with my buddy Zach. He's the guy that was on my baseball team, or my buddy John, who's like been my best friend since I was like like 13 months old or something, 18 months old, I think, is when we moved from Salt Lake City, where I was born, to Virginia. And yeah, so it's interesting. I feel like in these times, and I've seen it as a common narrative with at least like a lot of the people around me, you know, in this sphere, that a lot of stuff from their childhood is coming up in a really interesting, in a multitude of ways. but I know it especially has for me, and we spoke a bit about that, and uh, a flower has grown, a purple flower has grown out in the Zen garden. I remember I shared with you a bit just about that whole symbolism and that this, that's, I'm not sure if we're going to tune into that whole thing right now, but
Please, yeah, please do. Yep.
All right. So, well, as you know, when we were speaking last time, that you shared that incredible dream that you had with me about this idea of purgatory in this space between space and I just shared, I had my mother almost coming up on 2 years now. She made the choice to enter human life on in September, somewhere between September 21st and the 24th, and she had a lot of, we had a deep connection through purple. It's funny, I ended up wearing purple today. That wasn't even on purpose, and it just is a beautiful reminder of how my mom was so supportive with my music and inspired spectrum and this weaving of color and frequency and sound and how it relates to our senses, or what was that word, neurosense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And beautiful. So I love that. And and so the symbolism with the flower is it. When I first moved to this spot at this new place called Angel Cottage for a home studio, and residing and what have you, and this whole Jamily idea. And when I first got here, I noticed this purple flowers and the Zen garden, and immediately it spoke to me as a totem of my mom, because she inspired spectrum in many ways, and our relationship was very purple, if you will, and because there was a lot of a lot of love and roots and groundedness from the beginning, and her being my mother and an incredible mother all my life. And though I didn't always get along with her up until about the last 4 years of her life too, but there was also that blood boiling times that can happen, and also very bluesy times and calm and and melancholy too, because there was a lot that happened beyond my scope of awareness at that time, but I could sense it within my mom. And then they came together, and we came together just after I moved out to California, and I came back to visit her, my grandma in Williamsburg. We really made this oath, or just this meeting and choice, most importantly, to really meet in the middle and bring those kind of ways of being that we were into, really integrated into unconditional love, or just love in general. I don't think conditional love is a thing. So love, and really that content and how nurturing it was, for one another, and just how I used to share music with her. She was actually my sister's who encouraged me to start singing. She would hear me singing in the car, and then my mom encouraged me with talking about different topics and challenging me to do the improvisation vocally. We drove this one time to the Eastern Shore with my grandma, and just remember I was right in the back playing guitar, and we were going around in a circle singing blues. And even my grandma, she was 95 at the time, or 94 at the time, and yeah, it was really beautiful. And so purple is a way, coming full circle, that she communicates to me, and this flower went dormant as I spoke to you. And then the day before we spoke, I spent all night really allowing myself to process and weep and be with that in that garden. And my tears ended up actually watering this flower that was dormant. And it was next to a white one that was very healthy, same kind of flower, these like peonies maybe or something like that. And you know, I've been watering it with structured water and fulvic minerals. I come back the next day after, like right before we had the conversation, and a purple flower showed up, and yeah, it was really sensational and just super heartwarming and really powerful because I was asking her to show up in some way. You know, I knew like you know, everything's energy, you know, cycles and waves and everything like this, but to have that kind of listening and attentiveness and communication is in connection is something that is so beautiful and way beyond anything I can fathom, you know. And it's honestly, I think, in a lot of ways, even more. I don't know exactly what word follows that, but I say this: she's very more present and has so much more influence and inspiration on my life now more than ever. You know, and I feel like though her choice was her choice, and all these things can be said about her choice, from selfishness to selflessness, because she came to me once with her voice saying, "You want to know why I did what I did?" It was so you wouldn't. So there's a lot of opinions people can have, but when it comes to the end of it, you know, it's like there's for sure been so many blessings and lessons and like realms of compassion that I've been able to tune into, and also especially meet with my family. And since my, you know, mom and dad split when I was 7, it was something that had brought the family back together, though it wasn't obviously a very pleasant means of doing so. It did bring out and invoke and connect a lot of love and understanding for, you know, a lot of these relationships in my family that hadn't really been tended to for years. So, and a lot of understanding on my part too, you know.
Wow. It really landed in my heart. You know, hearing you talk about your transition, the fire behind the conversations, and then the blues behind the conversations, the memory of just your mom and grandmother and your sister nourishing your conversations toward this, how to become more present in your music and how to show up vocally and add what you have to say vocally in addition to how you're playing. So the presence that you were able to be gifted from that. And then the next part that really landed with me is this idea that even when people make the choices in order that affects not only their life or their end of life, but then their family around them, what does maximum grace look like? And how she's still even more present, you know, through gratitude, because we have to reach a lot deeper. So often people are in this place of surface. I saw that you just raised your hand, so I'll stop there for a moment. So you raised your hand. Go ahead.
No, I was no, I really love what you're saying. It was a particular word that I really resonated with.
Maximum grace.
Maximum grace and such. Yeah, I was like, I love that. Yeah.
It's a good one to love. Yeah. So I just think about this, when we may not necessarily agree with choices that other people make, and bringing in this idea of how do I become really present, even though I may not be in agreement, and even though I may not even be comfortable here. How do I open up, create some boundaries for myself, but really start to have deeper empathy and what are places that I can meet people even after they've passed. So the idea that you're like looking out your door, that you happen to have the gorgeous color that is wrapped around you right now, and that you know your tears are helping to bring life just by your awareness of wanting to be in that space with the spirit of your mom. So I really, that really touched me. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you for, hallelujah, for having a, I mean, just how quickly, I mean, this is the maybe third, fourth time that we've tuned in. I'm super grateful for Jonah. I'm not sure if Jonah's, tuned in right now. I'm sure he will at some point, but really grateful that Jonah connected us. And just, I knew right off the bat of like what we dove into when you just asked me the question, how are you? And it was that day after the flower bloomed, and and I had this realization too about a childhood injury too, to a baseball one with a baseball bat from my little buddy, and how I did a lot of work and attentiveness to hemispherical integration, rewiring, and subconscious, and like getting things back to that equilibrium and then some, and regenerating. All of that. So, and it's just, it's really, so thank you for providing this like a safe space, and just beautiful, like where it feels inspired. It's so beyond, like I love now, I'm really grateful to have been inspired and encouraged by others to have the courage to share this story, and like, and how the different effects and how, and just all these people I've met, connected with, that have been, in a relation to what she did, and it's it's really, it's very powerful to be able to have a platform to share that and connect with other people that are doing that, and feel inspired to do so.
Yeah. And thank you for being vulnerable and willing to have this conversation, because again, I think that the less that there is, the more that we're able to have these conversations, the less, the more nourishment there is on all sides of the spectrum. Recognizing that there are people who actually feel like they don't have resources and don't have options and don't, for whatever reason, they are limited to what an outcome can look like. And then the same piece happens for the people who are trying to support or are in the aftermath of that experience. That they too may feel like, well, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be shamed. I don't want to feel the humiliation. I don't want to have to like, so instead, the more that we just approach it in a way of, this is an actual conversation, and there's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of kindness that can go along with it when people are willing to show up in that space and start to lay a pathway for others to be able to walk in, especially when it comes to things like music. Because the more that you can integrate pieces of music, if a person doesn't have that vocabulary yet, or doesn't really want to say anything verbally, it can all be done through nonverbal communication.
Yes. Yeah. 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 That's the beauty of like instrumental music. Even just, I listen to a lot of instrumental music, and it allows me to process to like a lot of listening to, I mean, it also sprouts a lot of creativity, but just the listening process of music. I mean, I've gotten it like an orgonite piece just for my Bluetooth speaker, because I'm almost always listening to music and just being inspired and exploring new things, and discovering new artists and what have you. And, receiving new work from people too, and it's just really really exciting and really inspiring. And instrumental music especially is uh, something that yeah, it's just so like I love singing, and I'm really grateful that my sister inspired me to sing. But it's funny, I would always want to listen to instrumental music, and she loved uh, listening to lyrical music, and I think not just because like we'd sing along and stuff, but her own reasons, and that's beautiful. But for me, I've found that, and it's kind of hard to find instrumental music like outside of classical or this, that, and the other. It's a little bit more rare unless you're really seeking for it and you look into all kinds of composers and what have you. And yeah, instrumental music, and that's why oftentimes too I'll just really play a lot of instrumental music too, and especially on this thing, it's a lot of fun just to like totally let loose and see just what comes through.
Yeah.
I do real quick need to plug in my phone because I'm on my phone. I give my laptop to a friend.
Yeah.
Let me see here. How long do we have, by the way?
We're on for another 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Would you like to play another song in a few minutes?
Sure. Okay. Sure. Let me plug this in here.
Yeah. Bringing all residents to which island are you on?
I'm on Maui. Is that sideways, or does that adjust? Just because my charger's plugged in.
Yes, you have it.
That does adjust?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll be right back. I'm just gonna grab my guitar. But yeah, on Maui here.
All right, I'll remove him from the screen and bring him back in a few minutes. So again, if you are listening and if you need support regarding like people who have taken their lives, or if you're thinking about suicide, reach out. Of course, if it's an emergency, reach out to 911 and get yourself some help immediately. But if you're really trying to process, if it's been a long time that these kind of thoughts are coming and going from your life, and for you maybe, or I'd invite you to consider, like, is this something, I'll bring it back in now. I was just giving feedback regarding suicide and people taking their life. So for me, like, I recognize that it's been a continuous piece of my narrative since I was about 12. For many years it's not really a part of me anymore. But one of the major shifts that I needed to make was what are the boundaries that I'm missing, and what are my precious needs, and how do I grow community so that I can get the tools and practices in place so that I can start structuring my life in a way where I'm more supported. So that was a big shift, and the part of me that needed to die was the area of myself that I didn't have language and I didn't have vocabulary. And so I was willing to just kind of look at the parts of me that I wanted to nourish and recognize that was actually the loudest voice in death. That was the one that was like, I'm so at a loss and it was the only way that my brain had to be able to process that information was, we should just end it. And I'm like, okay, are there any other choices? Because ending it is certainly one outcome, but are there more choices available? So I just was letting people know, if you're in that place, please reach out. There are people. If you need to connect, please reach out to 911 or 999 if you're in another country. But please know that there are resources if you desire that. So, thank you.
May I share something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, because it inspired. It's really interesting you sharing it, because I felt inspired when I heard you make that announcement when I went to grab the guitar, and it's really powerful because I've had my own experience with that, and now made an oath to myself, and just after seeing just beyond all of what has happened around me, and a few of the people that I know, along with my mother, and family friend Jade, and you know, there's been enough for me to really make this oath to be here and live my time, and I felt inspired to share, like, is if anyone, you know, listening ever is going through something like that, I encourage you, if you're willing and able, to play an instrument or play, like, when you're really good, and like going, like, getting into that and singing about, like, from the bottom of your heart, top of your head, singing about those things that are to live for, even if it's the breath that's coming in, that's allowing you to breathe, to sing, you know, that it it's I've often, like, brought myself into a cathartic state, uh, and probably into some of the most that I've allowed myself to be in, because I continue to move the energy. Sometimes when you know, like, really will allow, you know, it's a challenge with all the programming, and, you know, be, you know, a young man, this, that, and the other, and now, like, you know, of course, the old paradigm of, you know, strong feeling, you know, you know, all that, this, that, and the other, and then also, you know, encourage with this, you know, more conscious community, if you will, of divine femininity, divine masculinity, and balance within ourselves. And you know, I've really found a lot of liberation in allowing myself to move through whatever grief looks like, in a healthy, like, constructive way. Like, one time I was with a dear wisdom keeper, Jalak, and just staying in a teepee on some Oahu trust land, and right before I moved to Hawaii, Jonah was wrapping up at Burning Man, and what have you, and I was there, and the University of STFU, if you can figure that what out that is, and listen, Delac Mountain Eagle School, and anyways, I after you harvested some pine nuts there, I had some extra wood to chop, and I used that, like, physical, like, tension or whatever was arising in my body, that before, as, like, you know, a young kid, that I wanted to, like, you know, yell into a pillow, or, like, which is, I mean, whatever, you know, or, like, would, like, hit a hole in a wall or my door or something, and then hurt my hand, and it just not be constructive, it'd be deconstructive, or, like, throw something, you know, like that. Now, you know, investing into that, chopping wood, and then having a fire, and transmuting, fire is transmutation, and, you know, tending to that, and having it say, and it's inside a teepee too, so it can't be too out of control, and, you know, you need to sweep the dirt in the teepee and all of the things. It was, there's really, I think what you said struck so strongly last time we spoke, of, if someone had all the tools, the modalities, the resources to address their, you know, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual challenges and adversities and confusions and what have you, that we would continue to thrive for life, like all the other life around us, you know. And I really believe that, and that's why I think it's really important. I'm really grateful here in Maui. I mean, in cleaning up this gray water situation, but having good, clean living water is really, really important, I think, for the foundation of health, especially for the brain, with the brain being like 70, 80, some, I think maybe even like 90% water, actually. But anyways, that was a lot. Did all that come through?
That came through, yeah. What landed, like, I'm just tracking it right now. So what landed was really this idea that as we're trying to process what's going on, instead of damaging ourselves, like by punching something or by striking back, that we can really take what's coming in, and your language of transmute it into something that can bring nourishment. You know, it's possible to take in the information of sadness, anger, or fear, those core pieces, when there's a lot of confusion around it, or there's amplified pieces to that. And when we can bring that in and do something with it that is constructive, you know, in younger years, sometimes it's punching a wall so that you don't punch somebody's face. So way to go, way to ace it. But then as you're like moving towards movement and creating something that can be more sustainable and create something beyond just basic survival mode. So with that, I'm excited to hear some more music. You got 2 minutes, and then we'll start wrapping it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll probably just on the note of instrumental. I think I'm just gonna kind of noodle around here for a moment and just land this. Yeah. Woo! What was that noise? Oh. Woo! Pardon me, I don't know what happened there.
I swear I have like one of the coolest jobs on the planet. That was
Yeah, you you really do. You really do.
I'm really grateful to be here with you. Unfortunately, a bunch of the comments didn't come through on this news feed, but you did get a whole bunch of comments. But here's one of them, just the inspiration of what you're bringing tonight. So, or today, you're still in the midst of the early part of your day out there. So it was really like nourishing for me, a really beautiful conversation. And I always enjoy just dropping in with you. I feel like I remember you from lifetimes. So it's just nice to find you here again. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you for all that, like, you're bringing to your community. Do you want to say anything about your community that this is how you find Rolo, by the way. It's in this Facebook post, and I will post it off to the side. But a few minutes to just speak about your community that you're creating within right now.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, and Jonah, him and I, and amongst handfuls of other really incredible people here on Maui, are connecting nodes and hubs of places of resources, farms, studios eventually, like here with the Jamley idea, and all these things, and also here with the Structured Water Project Maui, and all these elemental stewards and teams to tend, water protectors, fire tenders, earth guardians, air purifiers, and what have you, spirit speakers, connecting and being able to, do exactly that, and be available and a resource of the community and for everyone, and be a blueprint and share this around the world, and and so especially a way that you can connect with us, and right now is something that's a 501c3 that's already in motion with the Structured Water Project Maui, and so just like structured, like you can add some link or something like that, and we can maybe add something into the comments after. Or you can feel free to reach out to me if any of you guys have any questions. I'm happy to answer and connect. I love connecting people and what have you. And so, and catalyzing, these mutual evolving dreams and visions and goals and what have you that we have. So that's been a really, that's for me, as much as I love music, and this is such a treat to me to do this, because I've been kind of aloof. I have like hundreds of live videos on Facebook and my thing, but I have only done a couple since I've been, 2 or 3 since I've been here in the past couple months, just because I felt like no one was particularly getting more sick from not hearing my music, but from people not having clean living, structured and properly mineralized water that, you could say they are in a way. And that's became my focus, and, just how water holds memory and how music affects water and everything. And this water just sitting here on the desk, and, how it's just totally nourishing and just directly applied to like exactly what my body needs right now from influence of what we're, co-creating here. So just in one little thing, maybe in the meantime, if anyone wants to kind of structure their water with intention, obviously like tools and different things and devices can catalyze that, but you can go 21 times, like at the top, just like this, counterclockwise to bring the water back to natural order. It's not really necessary with mine because this has been through a water structuring device, but or you can go and then pause and then go 21 times clockwise and acknowledge the water is real, living, structured water. And you'll notice a taste difference in your body, and the living, there'll be some more electricity in there if like GDV, when you take a picture of the auric field of vegetables before and after steaming, or before and after meditation, it would be noticeable. And so I think this is something that's really important, because for me, that's water is what really I feel like fully, and especially fused with music, but it really was the foundation for me coming into like an optimal state of health and being, with just physically and mentally and
Yeah.
spiritually too. And so I also wonder now, not just what water is, but who water is. It's a very intelligent and incredible life giver. So
Yeah.
thank you for letting me share just my passions and inspirations and what's on my heart.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, audience.
Yeah, received. Oh my goodness, that was beautiful. So you can find Rolo. I posted a bunch of information. You can also check out Structured Water Project in Hawaii. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. So I think on Instagram it's the Structured Water Project Maui.
Okay. I will post that afterwards.
Okay.
I know that actually Jonah's about to be on Spirituality Gone Wild in a few moments. So
Oh, cool.
we're going to get off this broadcast because he's about to be on the next one.
Yeah.
So please check out Spirituality Gone Wild at least 2 times a day. Like and love and share. And if you know producers, if you know musicians who would like to be on the show, we welcome that. And Rolo, always a pleasure. And I look forward to connecting soon. Thank you for your blessing.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Much love and aloha, everyone. Ciao for now.